Howdy YouTube, Unky Joe here, Unky Joe's Playhouse. Today we're going to cover today's going to be an interesting kind of video. It was a half-hearted attempt at installing and running Proxmox on physical hardware. I wanted to show everybody how Proxmox works and how to load drivers for your operating systems, etc. And I'll tell you, I really like Proxmox. In fact, I prefer it to ESXi from VMware, just personal preference. The interface seems to be a little bit better, easier to understand for me, easier to use, and it seemed to be a bit faster until I did an update on it. And then once I did the update on it, it seemed to get slower. The operating systems I loaded on it were unresponsive. They didn't lock up, but they were just very, very slow, and the system seemed to really slow down. So, and in fact, they tell you in the documentation not to use anything but the authorized subscriber updates for the Proxmox system. Even though it's a basic Linux system, you should be able to do an update. And I do an update to Proxmox, and that's where I noticed the slowdowns began. Now, this is not a complete tutorial on Proxmox. In fact, I don't even show you how I installed it. The instructions are out there, and we'll come back and visit it in another video. I have all these pieces to this video. I wanted to go ahead and put them up there just to give you an idea what my experience has been with Proxmox. Now, we'll come back to Proxmox, but because of the needs of my lab and my business, I have had to move some machines around. And we're going to do a separate video on that as well, why I decided to make that change. So, but we will come back and view Proxmox. And this is not a slam on Proxmox. If you've got some spare equipment, hardware laying around, I would strongly suggest you download Proxmox and test it for yourself, because I think it has a great future and a potential. And I like it better than Zen because it seems to have everything built into it. So anyway, I'm going to put these clips up so you can see what I did with Proxmox, and then at the end we'll have another discussion on what my final thoughts are on it. And one more thing before we start the video, I'm using the new version of OBS Studio, the version 21.1.0, and I have put some stuff in the microphone, some of the settings on. I've been reviewing some videos on how to set up OBS properly. Can you believe that I've been using OBS for 2 years and never went back and set it up properly? Oh well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I mean, if it works, leave it alone, right? No, not me. Anyway, I looked up some noise canceling, and because I want to try and eliminate some of that background noise. And I think I've figured it out, how to prevent a lot of that air conditioning background noise, that drone that you always hear in the background. So let me know how the audio quality is on this video. Not on the scenes where I'm talking about Proxmox, but on the scenes where you see me on the screen. Because I just changed these settings last night. So hopefully they'll make for better audio. But let me know. And hopefully it's not clipping out too much of the audio, but let me know your thoughts on it once we're done with the video. Leave your comments down in the comments section for me, if you would be so kind. Thank you. Let's get started with the video. Alright, so I've had Proxmox installed already on a physical machine, and so now what I want to do, now that I have it up and running, I want to go ahead and log in. So I just come up here to the IP address, and then the port number is 8006. Go ahead and log in. It's going to warn you don't have a valid subscription. We're going to take care of that here. I'm going to show you how to do the updates on Proxmox so that you don't have to worry about this. So on your initial screen, this is what you'll see. Actually, probably what you'll see is this. You'll see you have a couple of storage devices out there and your node, your data center node, and then here's your actual Proxmox server right here. I called mine PVE. I just accepted the defaults. So if you come here to summary, you get some information about it, about the health, the guests, number of virtual machines that are running, number of containers, because you can also do containers on here. and CPU usage, memory usage, and storage, and then your name of your nodes and the average memory and CPU and uptime. And under here you have some options. Your storage is under here, so as you can see, my local storage is a directory, and a local LVM is actually LVM, logical volume management, thin provisioned disk image container. Backups aren't set up, but you can do that. Replication, user permissions, groups, pools, roles. These are the different roles. Authentication, etc. HA for high availability, firewall, your options, and then support. So if we come down to the actual node, we still have those options over here as well. I can search, I can do a summary, and this will give you an idea of my CPU load averages, IO delay, RAM usage, hard drive space, the number of CPUs, the kernel, and that's going to change after we do the update. This will change. The PVE manager version, CPU usage, server load, memory usage, and then down here network traffic, and then of course you have your tasks down here that have run or are running. You can run a shell command straight here from the interface. You could run a shell command using JavaScript. Your system information is here, services, the network. I have two network cards. I have a dual E1000 Intel network card in there, and then the Linux bridge, the VMBR bridge that bridges controller number 0. And there's the IP address, your DNS settings, the time. You have syslog entries, so you can go take a look at your syslog. If you had an account, you could do your updates from here, and you can see there are some updates. And like I said, we're going to go out and do those here shortly, but we're not going to use the subscription service. So just scroll through those. Firewall I haven't used yet. Disk, so you can see our single disk in here is a hard disk, and it's an LVM formatted 467 gig GPT partition. It's a Seagate. The smart test passed. I'm not going to go over Ceph or replication. Task histories here. Okay. And then if I further expand it, I can go into the local PVE, which is for the VZ dump backup files, ISO images, and container templates. That's the directory for that. They give you 99 gig. And then the local LVM is where you'll actually put your disk images or your containers, and it's thin provisioned. So if we come back here to local PVE and go to content, this is where I put my DVD images or install images, and it's real simple. You just click on the upload button, select your file, tell it it's an ISO image right here, so you can see this. So I'll just point it to, let's see, let's put server 2012 R2 over there. And let's see, what image are we going to use? We'll use the eval. And then click on upload. Alright, so I have got the image copied over now. As you can see, it's in the repository. Now if you look down here though, you're going to notice that, well, it just finished copying the data. It had a task similar to how ESXi does things. It'll have your little tasks down here in a window. So the next thing I want to do is I want to get Proxmox updated to the current version. And I could go out here to a shell command up here, but probably the better way to do that is to go through PuTTY. So I'm going to bring PuTTY up, and we're going to connect out via PuTTY. So I'll enter my IP. And I'll accept the security, the server host key. Hopefully everybody can see this. Now, what I need to do is edit a couple of files here to get this to work. So let me make sure I get everything lined up here. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is add a repository to the sources list. So I'm going to use nano because that's built into Proxmox. So I'm going to do nano /etc/apt/sources. Sorry. .list. And you can see there's already a couple of sources out here already. What I need to do is add one right here, and here is the source that I'm going to add right there. Debian stretch PVE-no-subscription. And I'm going to go ahead and save that. I'm going to hit Control X and tell it yes to save it. The sources.list. And then the next one I need to do is I need to nano etc -apt -sources, or I'm sorry, /sources .list .d /PVE -enterprise .list. Just let me verify I've got everything in there correctly. It appears I do. And then what I need to do is I need to put a pound sign in front of there to remark that out so it doesn't go there for its updates. Control X to exit. Yes to save. Give it the same file name. Now there's only 2 updates that you run, so I'm going to clear the screen here. You don't upgrade this like you do a normal Linux system. You're only going to do the apt-get update and the apt-get distribution upgrade. Those are the only 2 that are supported. So I'll do apt-get update, and that'll go out and update our sources list. Okay, and you notice it is gone to number 6 here. Was the PVE no subscription, right? Good. That's what you want it to do. And then I'm going to do an apt-get dist-upgrade, distribution upgrade. And it's going to download about 267 meg. We'll tell it yes, and we'll let it run. All right, so it looks like the update is complete. So let's go back to Proxmox, and you're going to see nothing here has changed. What we're going to do now is we're going to restart Proxmox. So we'll go ahead and click on the restart icon here and tell it to restart, and then we will go away for a few minutes and come back when Proxmox is restarted. Alright, so it looks like the update is complete, and as you can see now our Linux kernel has been upgraded to from it was December of 2017, now it's March 28th of 28th of March 2018, and the PVE manager has been updated as well. So it looks like the update was successful and we should be ready to go. And if you come down here now to updates, which is if you have a subscription, this is where the updates will appear. It looks like we don't have any more updates there. Let's go over to the syslog and just take a look. Let's see here. Yeah, it looks like everything is okay. Now the proof will be in the pudding when we go out to create a virtual machine. So real quickly, I'm going to create a Windows 7 64-bit virtual machine just to show you how it's done. It's fairly simple. You just come up here to create VM, and we're going to choose the PVE node because that's the name of this node. You can give it any virtual machine ID you want. I'm just going to keep the one it assigns, and I'm going to type in that this is W7-64-001. Click on next. This is going to be using one of the images we uploaded, so I'll make sure the disk image file is selected and then go out and choose my Windows 7 DVD. This is Microsoft Windows, and it's a Windows 7 installation. So I can either click on hard disk or next, which will take me to hard disk, and I'm going to change this to VirtIO block, and I'm going to give this version of Windows a 40 gig hard drive. You can just leave it at IDE if you want to, but all the documentation I read shows to use the VirtIO drivers, so that's what I'm going to do. The cache, I'm going to leave it at default, no cache. The CPU, I'm going to give it 2 cores, and I'm going to leave the default at KVM64, and then I'm going to give it 2 gig of RAM. And then on the networking, I'm going to set that also to a VirtIO driver, because that's what's recommended in the documentation that I've been reading. Next, and then it wants you to confirm all those settings. Go ahead and click on Finish. And now, if we're lucky, we should have a virtual machine here. And there it is, and it's still creating it, as you can see down here. So now it's just simply a matter of going in. We're going to click on the Start button. And then once we do that, we should be able to go into the console. So I can stick here on summary and bring up the console like this as well. I really have to say I like the console in Proxmox. It really is quite good. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is go ahead and follow the installation, and I'm going to have you stay with me so you can see some of the things you're going to need to do. Now, one thing I did not do, and I'm going to need to address that now, is I need to copy the VirtISO drivers into the ISO folder. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shut down this machine, because that is the one step I did forget, of course. We'll let that shut down. I'm going to come over here to the local drive, and I need to add another ISO file, and that is in my downloads folder. So let's see if I can find it here. There it is right here. VirtIO-win-0.1.141. And I downloaded that from the internet. You're going to need that. That is all your drivers for Windows if you're going to run Windows for Windows and Linux and all the others. It's like the VMware Tools disk, similar to that. So I'm going to go ahead and upload that to my repository. And then I'm going to come back to my Windows 7 machine, which is, did it shut down? Error. It failed. So we're just going to stop it. It's not going to hurt anything. It was just booting off the CD-ROM drive. And now we'll come back over here to hardware, and we're going to add another CD-ROM drive. And we're going to make sure we use our local storage, and we're going to choose that VirtIO driver, or ISO. Alright, so now we can come back here to our Windows 7 machine. Go ahead and start it again. Let's just make sure we've got that extra CD-ROM drive, and we do. So we'll come up here and start that machine, and once it's started, we'll go into the console. And now we should be able to do the install. And then you have a little chingamadero, the control bar over here, so you could show extra keys. You could do it full screen. You have power options, for example, start, shut down, stop, reset, suspend, etc. And then you have control commands, alt command, send tab, escape, and send control alt delete. So if you needed to use those keys, you could. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and install it in English. Install now, and this is why we had to load that CD-ROM with the drivers, because you're not going to see a hard drive here when you go to do the install. I'll do a custom, and you see we don't have any hard drive here. So what we need to do is come over here to load driver, and we're going to browse, and we're going to go to that VirtIO CD-ROM drive, And we're going to go down to the VIO store folder, Windows 7, AMD 64, click on OK, and that way it'll load the Red Hat Avert ISO SCSI driver. Going to click on Next. It's going to do its best to load that driver. It sees we have a 40 gig unallocated hard drive out there. We'll click on Next. And we'll let the install run. And we'll come back when it's time to do some more driver magic. Alright, so it took about 30 minutes to do that install, and now I need to create a user account. This is going to be a Win7-64001 is the name of the machine. And we'll click on Next. Go ahead and give it an easy to remember password so that I can be hacked over and over again until I just can't take it no more. And I'm going to skip the activation. We'll come back and do an activation later. Because what's going to happen now is, now the operating system is installed, but we're not going to have any networking until we go in. There's a couple of drivers we still need to load. And we need to load the client software as well. So there's actually three more parts we need to do. Now I'm just going off of what I've been taught using Windows on Proxmox. So your mileage might vary, but this is how I've done it. I've done it before many times, so over and over and over again I've done it. And truth be told, I'm probably not going to run a lot of Windows machines on this Proxmox. I'm going to use this mainly for my Linux machines and for containerization and like similar to Docker images, that kind of thing. Alright, so we're up here at the desktop, and as you can see, the network card is going to time out here in a minute. No connections are available because it cannot find the network adapter. So I'm just going to go to File Explorer, and I'm going to go to that VirtIO directory or CD that's mounted. And the first thing I'm going to do is load the guest agent for 64-bit. So the QEMU-GA-X64. And I'm going to basically follow the prompts here. I'm going to change some settings on my taskbar because I like to use these small icons. There we go. Now again, I don't know exactly what this software does because it doesn't load any of the network drivers or any of the they have another driver. It's called a balloon driver, and that's to manage the memory. So I don't know what this does, whether this is another layer between them so that it can speak with Proxmox, your Windows operating system, so it can speak with Proxmox. All I know is the instructions I was given were to load this, so alright, so that appears to have loaded. So now I'm going to come back out to File Explorer, and I'm going to go to the computer and go to Properties, and we're going to go to Device Manager, and we're going to look at the devices that don't have a driver. And the first one is this PCI device. So I'm just going to click on Update Driver, browse my computer, and I'm going to go to the Proxmox VirtIO IntelliDrive D, which is the VirtIO ISO. Include subfolders, tell it next, and it should find the VirtIO balloon driver. I'm going to install that, and I believe that's to handle memory, like if you used dynamically expanding memory. This is the driver that communicates with that to make sure that Windows gives and receives memory as needed. Okay, so the balloon driver is installed, and now I'm going to do the same thing for the Ethernet controller. I'm going to update the driver, browse. It should remember the last location we were at, which is D. It should go out and find the, so it's found the Red Hat VirtIO Ethernet adapter. Go ahead and install that. Okay, so it's loaded that. Go ahead and close that. Close that. Close the device manager, and now it sees our network, so I'm going to tell it I'm on a work network. Close that. And then I'm going to go ahead and restart Windows. Even though it doesn't say you have to, I'm going to restart it anyway. We'll come back when Windows is back up and running. Nope, it's 5.4. Alright, and we'll go to our video folder. And we'll just copy. I want to get a nice large file. Here we go. We'll copy this one, because that one's actually not doing anything. See if our copy speeds are better. Oh yeah, much better. Well, we'll see what it settles down to. It bursted initially pretty quick. And we'll let that copy. So I'm going to end the video right here. You know, that file copy test across the network to a virtual machine is the standard I use, my benchmark, if you will, for whether I like a virtualization technology or not. And as you can see, my file transfer speeds were kind of abysmal. Initially, I was doing a rebuild on my Synology NAS on the array because I put another 4 terabyte hard drive in there. And I thought that was the issue with the speed, so I switched over to my Exponology NAS, which is where I store all my videos and audio, and try to copy from there. And initially it started out kind of high and then just drop. So now keep in mind, Proxmox is really not optimized for Windows operating systems. They will work, but it's really optimized for, I guess, more for Linux kernels, and they're working on it. It's a work in progress, yeah, I guess is what I'm trying to say about Proxmox. And I noticed the speeds got worse after I did the update, or the upgrade on Proxmox. So we're going to revisit Proxmox. I just wanted to give you a little taste of how it works and some of the basics of getting it up and running, and how to load drivers for Windows operating systems and that kind of thing. So we'll do a more deep dive and in-depth dive into Proxmox once I do a little more training on my end and get my ducks in a row, because I don't want to give you bad information. But the potential is there, and the best thing about Proxmox is it's open source. I don't know whether the subscription service is worth it or not. I'm going to have to look into that and get back to you and let you know what my thoughts are on their subscription service, because that could be why Proxmox was running a bit slower than I liked. I mean, it was on a Core i5 box with 16 gig of RAM. That should have been plenty fast enough for that machine, or for Proxmox to run on. But we'll revisit it once I get some more information on it. So there you go, Proxmox up and running, set up. We got a Windows machine loaded. I showed you some of the ins and outs of Proxmox and loading drivers and whatnot. So, and like I said, we'll do a more in-depth video as time goes on and I learn more about it. But anyway, we hope you found this video entertaining and informative as always. Please give us a thumbs up if you liked the video. Leave your comments in the comment section. I always love to see your comments. If you have any questions on what we've done with that install, you can leave them at unclejoesplayhouse@gmail.com. I'll answer them as soon as I can. So thanks again for watching. Donate if you're so inclined. We take PayPal and Patreon. We're trying to get some more SSDs in to put into that new IBM server. So if you're inclined, drop us a donation. Don't forget, at the end of the month, we'll go over all of our donors and thank them personally at our end of the month video, probably a live stream. I'm sorry I missed last Saturday's live stream. Life got busy, and I really needed to spend some time with the family, so that's what I did. My mother's had a fall and an injury again, and I really needed to focus my attention on taking care of her. So that's why we didn't do the Saturday live stream. That, and I slept in because I'd been up all night the night before. But anyway, I digress. Thanks again for watching, and don't forget, please, that we will see you on the other side.